Hello, 7th graders. So today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be walking you through these slides. If you don't want to watch this, that is okay. You don't have to. If you miss being taught this way instead of just looking at things, then awesome, stick with me. Okay, so today is our poetry intro. That is the unit we are going to end on, and we're going to be talking about figurative language today. We're going to be talking about sound devices with Miss Hilton on Monday, but today is about figurative language. And the good news is we've talked about most of these in class. So this is a video we are not going to watch. If you want to watch it, I am posting these slides separate of this video. I like it a lot. One of my favorite things it talks about is how poetry is like word music and how poetry is language with all the water wrung out. So, when you have something condensed, it's like that. So every line really matters, whereas if I write a book, the lines aren't going to matter as much as if I write a poem, it's going to be shorter, the words are going to mean more. So poetry is writing that is focused on being imaginative by using language which is chosen and arranged to create an emotional response through meaning, sound, and rhythm. Basically, I believe this to be true. Poetry is everywhere, it just needs editing. So, first things first, we've talked about this in class, but literal versus figurative language. So, if something is literal, that means it's actually true. So right here you see this boy and he has a tongue that is tied up. This person, their head is literally in the clouds. Figuratively, this is what we mean. So I'm tongue-tied, my words aren't coming out right. My head is in the clouds, I'm daydreaming. We do this all the time. They're so mad they're fuming. They're not literally have smoke and flames. They're so mad you can almost see it. Right? It's raining cats and dogs. Not literally, that just means it's raining a lot. So we're talking about figurative language because it's going to give you more of a picture in your mind than if I just say, the sky was blue. Versus, the sky was as blue as a robin's egg. If you've seen a robin's egg, you know exactly what blue I'm talking about. If you haven't, you're still a little bit more interested than if I just said the sky is blue. All right, so the 4 things are imagery, simile, metaphor, and personification. We're going to start with imagery. And I did not anticipate my little face being in the way, so I'm going to tell you what the slide says. But imagery is anything that appeals to the senses. So it's like the word says, it's anything that when you close your eyes, it's going to help you imagine it. Or if we're using our reading strategies, it's anything that's going to help you visualize it. So if I said, that garbage smells like a dead body, that's going to give you more of a than if I just said that garbage smells really bad. Some examples. Sight, the tiny red ant climbed up the broken twig. So we can imagine, it's red, it's small, the twig is not just whole, it's broken. One bite of the sour lemon caused my lips to pucker. And when I read that, my lips almost puckered because I've had that experience. Okay, in this is called man versus pepper. One sniff gives a clue of the heat within, so that's appealing to our sense of smell. First bite feels like swallowing a lighted blowtorch. That's appealing to our sense of taste. I also like imagining, so this is my sense of sight, but I like imagining somebody actually swallowing a blowtorch. I mean, it's painful, but it's a good image. And tears stream from his eyes like a flash flood. So not just, like a little bit, just streaming tears. That gives me a very good image as the dying ghost pepper delivers its savage revenge. I was talking with my mom about this, and she said, oh, I imagine that like taste. But for me, I imagine like a little ghost pepper on a battlefield, and it's like, I don't want to go down. I'm not going to die like this. And so it's like stabbing the taste buds as it's being swallowed. That's what I imagine. You might imagine something different. We'll talk about what my imagination is later because it is one of those 4 things. All right, so a simile, we've talked about this in class. It's a comparison of 2 unlike things. And a simile, you are saying something is similar, or you are saying it is like or as something. So some examples. This pizza is as cold as ice. and we see that they have literalized this figurative thing. You're as cuddly as a cactus. The frog's eyes sparkled like diamonds. We're like two peas in a pod. And this one right here is happy as a clam, and the clam is refuting that, so the clam is arguing against it and saying, I'm really not that happy. All right, so if we look at this example by Langston Hughes, it's called a dream deferred. And deferred means put off. So what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? So the two things that are being compared by Langston Hughes, we have a dream deferred, a raisin drying in the sun. Or fester like a sore. So fested, it's probably infected, it's got some pus. So I'm imagining this gross sore, and that's still, the simile is still a dream deferred, because we have that word like telling me it's a simile. And then run. Does it stink like rotten meat? So I have my dream, and it stinks like rotten meat. So Langston Hughes is setting up this kind of feeling of like putting off your dreams. We've talked about connotation. This doesn't, for me, have positive connotation. This has negative connotation. Like, when you put off your dreams, it's going to dry up, it's going to smell, it's going to fester. And then we have one that you could think of as positive. Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet. Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? So this, we have the dream being compared to multiple things, and Langston Hughes does this through simile because he's saying it is like something else. All right, metaphor. So a metaphor is like a simile. The only thing is you are saying something is something instead of it's like or as something. So, examples. That the cat's tongue is sandpaper. And so you can see that it's a little sandpaper tongue. The world is your oyster. I could say the world is like your oyster. Or my mouth is a volcano. I could say my mouth is like a volcano. Probably because I had something spicy. But in this, you're saying something is something else. My school's a zoo. School is not a zoo right now. It's pretty quiet at the actual building. Life is a journey, a dance, a game, a dream. Life is a box of chocolates if I wanted it to be a metaphor, and life is like a box of chocolates if I wanted it to be a simile. All right, so this is the first stanza. Remember, a stanza is a poem paragraph by Emily Dickinson. Hope is a thing with feathers. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. So when I think of this, I think, okay, if hope is a thing with feathers and it's singing, it is like a bird, right? But saying that birds can go wherever they want. Hope can go wherever it wants. Hope, like we have birds everywhere. Hope can exist everywhere. So to me, that metaphor helps strengthen those connections between hope and birds and how they both have this like lightness and this freedom about them. All right, this just made me laugh. So the difference, I think, between a metaphor and a simile, if I said to somebody, you're like a rat, that's maybe insulting. But if I say you are a rat, to me, that's a little bit more insulting. So I think metaphors, if you're saying something is something else versus it's like or as, it's a little bit stronger of a connection. Okay, personification. I know we talked about this on Chomps like at least 42 times. Maybe that's not true, but a lot. Okay, so you are giving something that is not alive, human-like characteristics or actions. For example, we have our cupcake, and the cupcake was calling to her, I'm yummy, eat me! Can cupcakes actually do that? No. This means that this person really wanted a cupcake. The slices of bread jumped out of the toaster suddenly, scaring me. We know that that's just a mechanism and they're just doing their job. But in this one, it makes it seem like they have personalities. The earth hath swallowed all my hopes. Literally, the earth can't do that. This they're talking about because somebody gets buried. And so they're saying, with this person dying, this person whom I love, that's all gone and over. The flame of the candle danced in the dark. Okay, flames they don't have actual dance moves. Nobody ever listens to me. And this one they gave the little yellow traffic light a frowny face, so it's giving it human emotion. And then we've talked about this is technically anthropomorphization, but don't worry about that word. You don't need to know. But with Inside Out, what they are personifying and they're literalizing is our emotions. We talked about with Phineas Gage, our emotions are just chemicals and electricity in our brain. But with this, they made them characters, and it's a little bit more fun. Basically, figurative language is about playing with your words. All right, so in this personification poem, take a poem to lunch. I'd love to take a poem to lunch, to treat it to a wholesome brunch of fresh cut fruit and apple crunch. I'd spread it neatly on the cloth beside a bowl of chicken broth and watch a mug of root beer froth. So this is describing this act of going to lunch with your friend. But in this case, she's taking this poem to lunch and arranging for it, making it all nice. There's another example I wanted to show you because for me, it had good imagery. It helped me really imagine what he was talking about. So What If by Shel Silverstein. Last night while I lay there thinking here, some what ifs crawled inside my ear and pranced and partied all night long and sang their old what if song. What if I'm dumb in school? What if they close the swimming pool? So in this, the what ifs, these thoughts we have, these thoughts are being personified. All right, so before we move on, I really just want to stress again, figurative language is about playing with words. You could say, I'm so sad. Or you could say, I'm as sad as a person who lost their only hamster. I'm as sad as a rainy day. And that just gives us a little bit more to work with versus I'm so sad. We've talked a lot about using vivid language to help. We now have two words for it, either to help us imagine through imagery or to help us visualize through visualization. Those two things are tied. So here's your assignment for today. All right. I originally was going to do this as a self-portrait thing, but I know sometimes I don't like writing about myself, so I made it about school. And I know we are so close to summer, so you probably have a lot of opinions about this, but all right. So you need to use simile, metaphor, personification, and imagery at least once. If you have questions, this would be a really good assignment to Zoom me about. Remember, Zoom at 11. So there are different topics. There's homework, there's friends, there's online school versus in-person school. There is, trying to remember. There's 6, I know that. Lunch, and then your least favorite class or your most favorite class. If you know that I'm big on choice. So if you are like, I don't want to write about school, Miss Jensen, I want to write about something else. Great. If you wanted to write about animals, awesome. You would just need to change these right here. And I do want them to be all on the same topic. So if you want to write about dirt biking, great. They just all need to be different little aspects. They would be different. So you'd have your heading, right? We talked about this when we did our brochures. You'd have your heading and then your subheadings that are still that topic, but remember, they're just a little bit more specific. So if my heading was cats, I could talk about kittens. I could talk about what they eat, anything like that. As always, email me if you have questions. Thanks for joining me on this figurative language journey. I love figurative language, and I might have cried a little bit because I don't get to teach it to you in person. So, hope you're doing all well. Stay safe. Love you.